All right, welcome back. My name is Dr. Spencer Erickson from Timview Chiropractic, and today on this episode of the podcast, we are going to talk about my experience with the Spartan race that we did a couple of weeks ago. I've got a new camera here, and you can. I'm just fiddling with the settings a little bit to see how the autofocus looks like. The autofocus is going to be doing some work. But I'm excited to sit down and chat with you about this today. It was a really interesting experience. We did a 10K Spartan. Now, the way that we got into this, because I know a lot of people do Spartans now, and I have never really been opposed to the idea of doing it, but I never really signed up to do it. We've had little kids for a lot of years, and running the business and doing all that stuff, and my wife wasn't really interested in doing that stuff at the time, and so I kind of put off doing those kind of races. I did triathlons several years ago. I did several distances. I did some sprints and some Olympic distances. I actually tried a half marathon distance, a half Ironman rather, and that was really cool. Except my legs cramped up so bad on the run, I was only able to run half of it, and I just couldn't walk, and so I had to abandon the last portion of the race. But it was a really great experience, and I really enjoy the competitive aspect of it, but really it's just going out and saying that I accomplished something. And so I have missed that aspect of it. Now with this particular Spartan, or this last year, year and a half I guess I need to say, my wife has been interested ever since we've had little kids. She's been stuck. Her schedule has just been stuck in this routine for a long time. And so finally our youngest, we have 3 kids. Our youngest, she finally weaned him, and so she decided, hey, I'm just going to go on this trip back east, and I want to do this Spartan event, and it's going to be kind of my thing that I do this year. It was her first trip all by herself, so we rented a car and got a hotel room and all that stuff for her, and so she was able to go do that trip, and on that trip she did her first Spartan race. Now, the Spartan was in, I wish I could remember the name of the event, but I can't. It was back east on the coast, and it was a sprint, and it was running on the piers and maybe a little bit on the beach, but not a lot of off road, and so the sprint distance is the 5K, which is just over 3 miles, 3.1 miles, and she really, really loved it. There are several classes in the Spartan events. She ran the open class, which basically means everybody can just do this. Everybody just goes at once. Doesn't matter male or female. Doesn't matter age. None of that stuff matters. You just go and you do the obstacles, and they're not really hardcore about making you do burpees if you're not able to do an obstacle. So really, it's an experiential thing much more than competitive. If you are doing open. And she did very well. She ended up in the top 10% even of the age group, women in her age group, and so she did really well. And so she's like, all right, I'm going to get competitive in this, and so this is going to happen. And so she's been training. We actually were supposed to go and do. We had several Spartans that we were scheduled to do last year, but with COVID, we just weren't able to, everything was canceled. And so there's just no competitive events for us to do last year. And so, because I was going to start doing them as well with her, because I love the idea of it, it's just not, it hasn't been practical. I don't want to do it without her. And so finally, they opened everything up, and so we got registered for the Spartan down in Vegas. Now, they call it the Las Vegas Spartan, but really it was in Arizona, just south of the border of Utah. And so we went down, we stayed a night in Arizona, drove down to St. George, and then right through there, and then stayed in Arizona. And then the event was on Saturday. And so really, it was a great experience. The event that we did, we both did age group, and we both did the 10K. And so the 10K is 6.2 miles. And I don't know, I think there were like 29 obstacles, something like that. But the experience was really, really good. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. My major issue, again, that I had was my calves cramping. And I know that was an issue, that's something that I can solve. I just haven't taken care of it yet. And so I think my calves cramping is really interesting because it's happened on half marathons, it's happened in triathlons, it's happened, a few different things. It's like my body says, all right, you are 1 mile from the finish, and so we're going to cramp. And so some of it I think really is in my head, but then I've just got to make sure that my legs are well taken care of, which I didn't do. I was even cramping the week before just doing my CrossFit workouts, just on the runs. And I didn't take good care of them at that point, so what else can I expect? Doesn't matter how much salt or vinegar I drink, my legs are just going to cramp at that point. And so it was the 10K, and so in case you haven't done it before, basically here's a rundown. They send you your start time, and to get into the event area, you have to have your start time available, so you have to like screenshot it or whatever. And so you go as early as you feel like you should, but you can't get there super early because they're not going to let you in anyway. And you go and park, and my wife and I, since we're in different age categories, I was in I'm 45. My race age this year is actually 46. And so, but she's in her late 30s. And so I was able to go in because my event started before hers. And so I went in and just was milling around and seeing what it was all about. Now, my understanding is that these events in the past have been huge. But this particular one was sold out. But there was it seemed like there was almost nobody in the event when I went in, especially since they only let you in, prior to your start time. So I went in and I was walking around. I got my race packet and I got my headband on and I got everything else that I needed to get. There were several wristbands that you can for different things to get you into the starting gate and to get you. Finisher medal. I can't remember what they're all for. But you get all started, you get all ready to go, and they had a little drop-off place for my backpack, and so I dropped my pack off there, my race bag, and then I went up to the start gate. And then there's an announcer there. He's pumping us all up, getting us to say how Spartan-y we are and that kind of stuff, which was really cool. And eventually time came, and they said, all right, go. So we all took off together. And being an age group, I was a little bit worried, not terribly so, because I have been in competitive events before, but I thought everyone was just going to sprint out of the gates. And my wife said, Celeste said that they actually did do that with hers. Her heat just went out really hot out of the gates. And so mine it seemed very normal pace to me, where it was a swift pace, but it wasn't something that was unmaintainable. Nobody was really trying too hard to get out too far ahead of the pack. But we did kind of thin out really nicely. I was in the front third at the very beginning, and it's just running for most of it. There are some walls you have to kind of jump over, like a 5-foot wall and a 7-foot wall, that kind of stuff. But most of the beginning really was just getting into your rhythm on the run. Once we got about 3/4 of a mile, maybe it was a little bit more, maybe it was closer to the mile mark, they actually dumped us into the river. And there's a little river going through there, and it was really rocky, like big boulders right under the surface, and it was moving fast enough, and it was dirty enough you couldn't see it. You couldn't see the bottom, even though it was only like a foot deep, maybe 1.5 feet deep. And so we're just trudging through the water, and so we got that kind of out of the way. But it was really interesting. It's like, why don't people run in the water? Well, because there are lots of rocks in there, and you're going to twist your ankle and fall over and get really cold. And so we get out of the water finally, and that was a couple hundred yards, a couple hundred meters of walking through the river. It was longer than I expected it to be. And we come back out, and really it was on sand. They find really interesting places to do it. So this place that they did in Vegas is, it's like they've got a motocross track. That's where we finished, and they had equestrian stuff. And so we're going through fields that are all chopped up by hoof prints. Maybe it's cows. They had big pastures, I guess, where we were running through those pastures. But we got out of that, and then we started doing real obstacles. So there were a couple walls, a couple bars we had to flip over and that kind of stuff. And then there's the rope climb. And so I'm good at rope climbs. I just went up and down that. I love that. That's one of my favorite events, favorite obstacles. And then we did Atlas Stone. That was one that I was really worried about because I'm a smaller guy. But I was able to lift it up. I think it was 100 pounds. I was able to lift it up and walk around a flag and back. It was only 30 feet total, maybe 40 feet of walking. And then there was a plate drag, where they've got a plate on the ground. And so I was a little bit worried about that as well, but that was much lighter than I expected it to be. Oh, I apologize. My computer is making all kinds of noises. And so really, that's when the event started in earnest. we didn't have any more maybe just some stream crossings, but it wasn't walking up a river. And so really it was running through sand and running across really choppy fields and then doing all the obstacles. Now, one of the hardest obstacle, in my opinion, is called Olympus. And that's where you have these handholds along the top of this big long wall, and there are no footholds, but your feet can't touch the ground. So if you're holding on with your arms and your arms extend out and your legs extend out, you will touch the ground, and so you're done. And so that was probably the hardest one for me. I actually still have some scrapes all over my leg, and it's been weeks since that happened. And so that beat me up pretty good. And there were a couple others I almost fell on, but that was more user error. That wasn't difficulty necessarily of the obstacle. And so they made it was a good enough representation of lots of different skills, where you have to have some strength and you have to have some skills and you have to have some ability to traverse, some gymnastic ability, I guess. So lots of monkey bar variations and that kind of stuff. And so with quite a bit of running in between. And so, the 10K is a 6.2 distance, 6.2 mile distance, and it was really, really a great distance. I really enjoyed it. The big problem for me really came with the bucket carry. That was about mile 4.5, maybe mile 5. And I picked up the bucket and I was walking around, so you have to walk down. I can't remember how heavy. It's between 50 and 70 pounds, I'm guessing, 50 and 70 pounds. But carrying it on one shoulder and then you switch to the other shoulder. A lot of people just carried it on their neck, on the back of their neck. And it was a downhill and then an uphill, and my legs just started cramping like crazy. It was my calves. My calves did not like that at all. And so I ended up, after that, basically walking all of the flats and all of the uphills. I was able to jog a little bit on the downhills, but there just weren't a lot of those. And so, in some of it, I really was moving super slow. And so it was kind of a bummer the last mile or mile and a half. I was just barely moving, just walking on my heels. And so there were still some obstacles left, which I was able to do. I nailed one of the big things is where you're lifting this pulley, this bucket on a pulley. And that one, I was worried that I was actually going to drop that because I was getting pretty fatigued at that point. And my technique I didn't start that very smart. And so that was one that I was worried about near the end. But I was able to get through it okay. But I nailed the spear throw. And that's the big thing that hung up a lot of people. We didn't have a ton of chance to practice, but I practiced it quite a bit. Almost, I don't want to say 2 years ago, but maybe it was a year and a half ago that we were practicing that. And then the fire jump at the end, my picture's really not very good. If I remember, then I'll put it up on the video of this anyway. But anyway, the Spartan event overall, it was really a blast because you can be as competitive as you want with it, or you can just go and do a race, just do an event. And so if you want to do the open, then you don't have to worry about being competitive. You just have to worry about your own performance in the obstacles. It turned out that my wife, she did it very well. She actually beat me by, I think it was about 7 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes on a 10K, which is pretty respectable. And she missed 2 obstacles, so she had to do a bunch of burpees, which I didn't miss any obstacles. That was really a blessing. It was a huge, huge blessing for me. I didn't have to do any burpees because that just would have dragged me down even further. But it was a really fun event. And so if you are thinking of doing a Spartan, then I would say just register for one and do it. If you don't want to be competitive, then just register for the open. It's cheaper anyway. If you feel like you want to see how you stack up against people in your age category, then do the age group. I have no problem doing the age group. I think that I actually would have done fairly well had my calves not cramped up, and I was consistently passing people on the obstacles. I wasn't passing a lot of people on the run, but I was passing people pretty consistently on the obstacles because I'm like a monkey that way. I've always been really good at that kind of stuff. And so for me, I really like that portion of the competitive aspect of it, especially on the obstacles, because I'm able to do those pretty well, even though I'm not super competitive on the run. I think I was kind of back and forth with a couple people on the run, so I was maintaining a fair pace with that. But takeaways from the experience. I kind of talked about them, where you just have to prep really well for everything. Get your legs massaged or rolled out, and make sure that you're not working too hard. If you like going to the gym 5 days a week, then you got to take half the week off. Maybe that's had something to do with it. I did work out on Thursday, but I took it pretty easy with that. I didn't work out on Wednesday or Friday, and the event was on Saturday. And so I went into it basically with the attitude that, I'm just going to do as well as I can and just see how it goes. And I'd like to do age category, so I did it. And so that was my attitude going in. And I think with that attitude, even coming out doing much worse than I wanted to, knowing the reasons why things turned out that way, then I'm perfectly satisfied with my performance. So what I'll do is I'll try to link up a couple of screenshots of some of the photos of me, and then my performance. Apparently, I came in 40th out of 20. So I know, at least in my age group, they got the numbers kind of messed up in the computer. So I don't even know how many men there were that raced in my age group. Maybe that's a blessing. Maybe I got 40th out of 40, and I just don't know it, and I don't want to know that. But it was a really, really super fun event. I highly recommend it. Just go and try it. Just do a 5K and do it in the open. And if there are obstacles you can't do, then just work through them or work around them, or do what you feel like you need to. If you have ever had an interest in doing it, now's the time. I think stuff is just going to get more restricted. It's going to get more busy over time, and so get registered for a race, prep for it. Teach your body how to run if you don't know how to run well. Teach your body how to do monkey bars and those kinds of things. Just going down to the playground is great for that. I also, like I talked about in a previous video, CrossFit. I do CrossFit, and so there's a lot of pull-ups and muscle-ups and those kind of gymnastic-y events that I really enjoy. That's one of the main things I like about CrossFit, and so that helped me prep really well. And so highly recommend it. Now, not very chiropractic oriented today. Go see your chiropractor. Really, if you have any questions about anything, feel free to give us a call. Timview Chiropractic, the number to the front office is 801-762-6940. If you want to email me directly, it's drspencererickson@gmail.com, or you can email the front desk at tintviewreception@gmail.com. We are going to, it's been a really, really fun, super busy spring. And so we look forward to always meeting new people. We're open to that. I can always get somebody in. I don't understand these offices that are booked out 2 weeks. We can always get somebody in no matter how busy we are. So if you ever need anything, give us a call and come on in, and we'll look forward to meeting you. Otherwise, have a great day. Thanks for watching or listening, and we will talk to you again soon. Thanks.